everybody knows we're better than what we just put out there on that field. And that all comes down to me. So that's my fault. And I'm going to do a better job in preparing you. I'm going to do a better job in continuing to push the standard. I'm going to do a better job. I'm trying to put you guys in a position to go play with speed and confidence. We'll take this thing. Oh, shit. Oh, damn. Accidentally went live on y'all. What's up? Anyways, what's up, Deshawn, man? Oh,
What's
man. We're
up,
back
George?
on the podcast on a Friday, man. Woo! I'm all messed up. How you doing, man? What did I miss in the news? I heard we got the war chant back.
Yes, we got it back, man. Third downs tradition continues. Oh man, I see you had company.
I couldn't help myself, man. I couldn't. That's like the funniest thing. We usually talk just football, but Shannon Sharpe with the leak gets leaked.
Yes.
Accidentally, somehow, miraculously, in the middle, like amongst coitus, whatever, like at the stage. The thing is, you start the Instagram live, you go through the 3 steps to get it live, and then you push it off the bed, lands perfectly, facing down, on the wood grain. It lasts whatever it lasts. Apparently, there's like more of it. People didn't start recording till that had been going on for a couple minutes. If you look, it's got 7,000 followers already. But yeah, I thought it was pretty funny, and immediately started plotting my viral moment. I think he got like 300,000 live viewers on the nightcap that night, which is ridiculous. Even podcasts that do millions and millions of views, they don't have 300,000 people watching live. Like that's man. He's got T-shirts out now with the girl's name on it and shit. Like that's
genius. It's marketing. It's that's what it is, and he's pushing enhancement. Medication.
And we won't get into the rumors. Like you know what I mean? He's just selling rumors. He's getting views. Like I hear you, bro. The T-shirts. That's like I think some people are like that's a step too far. We're done with the jokes. Like come on, man. Come on. But anyways, man. Yeah, so we did find out today that the war chant is back in Doak Campbell Stadium, so that kind of saga is over. We're going to have the war chant hopefully blaring, the best band in the land getting down on third downs. Hopefully that helps us this week. Is it you pretty happy that at least like some minds got together and made a good decision and got that fixed? Pretty wild. We never really covered it like other shows did, but it's just wild that third down, that's on defense. Everybody knows that's when you get loud. That's when your gimmick is.
Yeah.
And it's always the war chant. How many false starts over the years? I mean, it's just, it's hard. It shakes the camera.
Yeah.
And for that to go away, real glad we got that back on mine for sure.
Yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm one of them that certain traditions you just don't break. And that's part of the mystique and aura of Doak Campbell. The war chant. I mean, often imitated but never duplicated, just speaking to, growing up watching the games and, third down, get off the field when that's glaring, there's a big play about to be made for the defense, not so much right now this year, but traditionally we know historically, that's just a part of the tradition at FSU and either watching a game, being at a game, the experience is like nothing else. It's special.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Glad I can't believe that ever went away. Like I guess you can kind of understand that, undefeated team or whatever, but still don't understand it. Still don't think it should have happened. But yeah, it's tough. Glad we got that fixed. We won't have to worry about that. I mean, you just go back and look at that Florida game with the band on the road, and I don't even know if we had them this past year, but I know Florida games in the past on the road, the band has helped us out. You look at the ACC championship last year, that was huge. Our defense looked the best it looked all year, and it was because it was so loud in there. They could not do. It was nuts. It was just a crazy atmosphere. So we definitely need to get that going in Doak. We're already at a disadvantage. We're 20,000 down on people.
Yeah.
So it's like we damn sure got to have that. It's a noon game, so we'll see how intense it gets. But I just got the word. We didn't advertise it. Wasn't sure. He has some other stuff going on. Of course, it's Friday, 7 Eastern. You guys join us. We appreciate you guys. We got Doug Rohan stopping by. He should be here in 3 or 4 minutes to give us the scoop on the legal news that we got today. I won't even say nothing about it. Let him get on here before I screw things up and start lying to you guys. But of course, as always, I've got my guy with me, Deshawn Adams. That's at Deshawn Adams 18. You can see it on the bottom. That's where you can follow him on X. He's also got a YouTube podcast as well, actually a couple different ones he'll let you know about in a little bit. Your boy George is here as always. Jen is still recovering from her surgery she had a week ago on Friday. She's doing way better. But just sitting up and being able to eat and get around and do the bare minimum without being in absolute terrible pain is where she's at right now. It's not doing an hour and a half long podcast, but we're hoping maybe Sunday, maybe Tuesday, maybe you get a roast after this game and after the weekend of games would be amazing. So continue to send your prayers out to Jen that there's no more complications and she gets back with us as soon as possible. But yeah, hyped up to see about this Hail Mary kind of attempt Florida State has made. It's funny seeing the way ESPN and all these different kind of places that put out articles on football and FSU football and things, the way they label it. I mean, they tell us we're crazy and this and that, it's not going to happen. But whenever like something gets filed or this or that, they really put that clickbait in there. Like it's, oh yeah, if Florida State gets this, they can now leave the ACC. And as great as that sounds, I'm here to tell you probably not. And I said I wouldn't even talk about it till Doug gets here, but he's going to explain why, this is a big deal, but, don't get too excited about anything happening before that February 1st, 2025 date, because court stuff takes a long time. But this could definitely be great for Florida State. It could be a big feather in the cap when it comes to those negotiations and whatever possible settlement or whatever happens. Don't get it twisted. This is very important. But we're not trying to clickbait and bullshit you. Florida State's doing a kind of Hail Mary attempt. I say Hail Mary because it's the end of the fourth quarter. It's not like they're down, they're losing and everything. It's not in that. Like it's just a desperation attempt. But it's just kind of going, swinging for the fences, I guess, is a more apt metaphor there for it. What else? Any thoughts initially? Just on here, seeing another headline, like, are you happy to get a break from talking about football for a few minutes for the first half of the show?
Well, man, yeah, I mean, seeing it, I had like you, I won't go into detail because I'd rather have someone a little bit more inept and knowledgeable about what actually is going on and be able to explain it to us and our viewers. But from what I've read, what I understand, it is a nice attempt to be able to expose and put the ACC in the corner, trying to box them in a little bit more. It's actually been, from my understanding, just following stuff, it seems to have been the tactic overall. You never show your left hand what your right hand's doing, so they kind of catch them off guard again and catch them with their pants down in the situation by using their own words against them. And basically just reading what Doug had put is basically just exposing the grant of rights and its lack of clarity on what actually are the rules and the bylaws, basically, that every university in the conference has to actually go by. So, I mean, it's not like you said, it's not a desperation attempt, but it's an attempt to knock the shit out of them now and going to get this over with.
For sure. It could be huge. And like to what Deshawn was saying, like we talked about this a ton. It goes back and forth. There's all these different theories, all these different angles. But the one that this is based on is one that we've talked about a lot here, and kind of like the judges are having to like listen to what the ACC says. Oh no, this is what we meant in the suit. This is what we meant. Finally, FSU in Leon County, they got the 2016 paperwork from the grant of rights. And I think the main thing here is pointing out that it's ESPN and home ACC games, and after that, Florida State's free to do what they can. But man, my guy Doug comes through in the clutch, busy as hell.
Hey,
but he comes into the show to give us the update. We already kind of gave you an introduction and kind of broke down and gave the people a little bit of an idea of what's going on with this motion for partial summary judgment. Did I say that correct?
You did, absolutely.
In different cases. But I guess I'll give you the floor. I know you don't have too long, but are we swinging for the fences? I called it a Hail Mary, maybe swinging for the fences type of deal, but not in a desperation thing. It's not like it's over tomorrow type of deal.
Well, let me start off by saying I'm here at the event hosted by Micanopy 1851. So this is one of our collectives here at the Duval in downtown Tallahassee. We've got Marvin Jones here. We've got Dylan Rivera here. We're talking about what collectives can do in the space of supporting a team, even though we're 0-2 instead of 2-0. This is such a critical time for the NIL space, and they're not trying to take away from the Battle's End. They're not trying to take away from the boosters. This is just another opportunity to help support our student athletes. So I'd be happy to share with you more information that I learned after we have our event tonight. But yeah, today was very exciting. This week's been very exciting. We had the motion for partial summary judgment, as you mentioned. And look, we've stated before, FSU just needs to win on one count. We don't need to win all across the board. We don't need to have a clean sweep. The ACC is the one that needs to win on a clean sweep of all their points in all 3 cases that are pending, or all 4 cases that are pending. So this motion for summary judgment is a reflection of the ESPN documents being made available to the parties. Now that we've reviewed the ESPN documents, there's nothing in there saying FSU has to be a part of the grant of rights. So now we default back to what Clemson and subsequently Florida State argued in their second amended complaint, which is, look, we can say we're out tomorrow. And if we say we're out tomorrow, we don't owe ESPN anything. And if we don't owe ESPN anything, then the grant of rights doesn't apply to us. So it's a very high bar. It's a very high standard to win a motion for summary judgment. What you're saying is, here are all the facts. The facts are undisputed, and we don't need a jury to determine or interpret any of these facts. These facts are laid at the feet of the judge. The judge can apply the law as written, and if you apply those 2 factors, Florida State wins. Now, the ACC can write their rebuttal, and they will provide that in the next 20 or 30 days. And what they're going to say is that absolutely there's still facts that are at issue. Absolutely, we still need a jury to hear this case. And then Judge Cooper will make a determination. Should I grant this motion for summary judgment or should I not? And I personally think the motion will be denied, but it's nevertheless another bargaining tool, and it's another day in the calendar that has passed, getting us closer to January 31st, 2025, which is when I believe is really the deadline for an agreement to be reached.
Yeah, I think the top question, what people are thinking, and you kind of covered it in your conclusion you put on Twitter, Rohan at Rohan Law PC. He's always hooking us up with the information there on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter and you're a football junkie like us, make a Twitter, just follow FSU football stuff. You can mute all the words of politics or anything else you don't want to hear. It's really kind of the nerve center of information when it comes to news. False information, good information, whatever. It's up to you to parse through it. But it gets there first, and Doug does a good job there. But what people are thinking, what I'm thinking when I first find out, say this goes in FSU's favor. We get whichever claim in the judgment. Okay, yep, the facts are there. Judge Cooper rules in our favor. I think we had a similar thing happen where we were denied North Carolina, then we went to the appeals courts and things of that nature. What does that mean to us, to Florida State? If they get it in Florida, does that mean, okay, we can go? We can leave the ACC and we've got it here, so the rest of it can work itself out? Or is it going to have to, we're going to have to get it done in North Carolina, get it done in the appellate court up there, get it done in the appellate court down here after they appeal? Like, does all that have to get settled before Florida State could actually leave? Like, basically, is this all for naught? It's just a bargaining chip for January 31st, kind of as you're saying.
Sadly, you're very correct. Unfortunately, this is only related to the Florida lawsuit. So best case scenario, Judge Cooper says, yes, I agree. Florida State, you are 100% right. This is not something that applies to you. You can be out. Well, you still have the North Carolina case pending. So that doesn't eliminate or end any litigation. Secondarily, as you pointed out, whoever loses can appeal this again to the Court of Appeals. And so it does prolong the litigation. That's why I say this case is never going to be resolved on the merits of the litigation. Litigation is a tool to force the parties to reach a settlement and a reasonable settlement. And so if Judge Cooper favors the position that Florida State has and rules in favor of Florida State, that still means we need to settle the issue because the North Carolina case is still pending.
Okay. Well, I asked this question because it kind of sounded like you answered it, but I just to make clear for our viewers. I see we lost Doug.
No,
Very
he's
good.
lost
All
time.
right, we lost you for
That
a
was
moment.
George's fault. Tommy
Okay.
Deshawn.
I was going to ask, just to give clarity to make sure that our viewers understand, with this, if you get to the motion and we get to the point where there's a denial in Leon County off the rebuttal, this could further escalate and push negotiations at the table as far as mediation, right?
Yeah, I would suspect Judge Cooper is going to deny the motion. It's going to take 90 days before we get to an order. First, the ACC has a right to reply. That can occur in 20 to 30 days. And then Judge Cooper, who already took 60 days to reduce to writing a written order of what he ruled from the bench, he's going to take 90 days to rule on this issue. So that's already pushing us into October, November, December, January, if you add Christmas and Thanksgiving in there. So that's why I again say January 31st, 2025 as a date is more important to this case being resolved than any of this litigation.
Okay.
And I usually like pick on Jen for looking at the chat. There's like 3 people in the chat going nonstop about how Florida State doesn't deserve it. Their fans are delusional. What have they done to deserve to get to lead the conference? Like, dude, you got to get tired of typing. Like, what planet do you live on? You literally won half the national championship, half the
George,
conference championship.
you want
Since we've been here, we
viewers.
won it.
You want
last year.
engagement. You want viewers and you want
I love
engagement.
it.
Just thank them
I
for
love
their
it.
participation in
Giving them a
boosting
little
your
shout out.
algorithm. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the GBO, the whatever, whatever, Tennessee people, hey, keep coming. These jokers,
Let's go.
even in slow times, if we hadn't done a show in 3 or 4 days, they're in there. They're dropping the comments.
63 to
talking
3, babies. Keep typing 63
Yeah.
to 3. That's all I want to hear from the SEC folks. As long as they're commenting on your show, I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
Yeah.
That's right. So I guess I want to ask one question, and I want to give you the floor to just speak on whatever you want to speak on this current situation. But we've talked about how this kind of really, it's the effect on the negotiation table. That's what every win, every loss in each one of these motions is about. Is the $25 million NIL contract, the stuff with the Pac-12, Pac-2, about to be the Pac-6, what's going on with the big, does all that kind of factoring in that, you think that has any effect on the negotiations and possibly getting this thing done before February 1st? Because you mentioned the holidays, like you can hang it up December, 21st through like July 5th.
Yeah.
For these government jobs and stuff like that. I haven't been around a courthouse from Christmas through New Year's and what it looks like, but I can imagine it's not much getting done.
These are all dominoes. These are all individual dominoes related to the ultimate solution of this case. So what you have to understand is when these filings get filed and when these arguments get made, they just had the argument in the Court of Appeals over the issue of jurisdiction. All of those are getting related back to the mediation table and to the conference about trying to get the case resolved. Florida State, if you took our discussions a year ago from where we are today, grant of rights is ironclad. Well, 12 months later, holy crap, I'm being PG-13. It turns out it's not ironclad. So all of these dominoes get stacked up, and frankly, they're getting stacked up in favor of Florida State. So at some point, they're going to push these dominoes. Add to it the news this week from that article about the carriage fees and ESPN. ESPN lost out last year on charters negotiations for the carriage fees being statewide. Now DirecTV, the reason why you can't watch any of our games on DirecTV is because DirecTV is following charter's lead and saying, you know what, you're right. SMU is the 4th biggest market in Texas for game watching. And frankly, that's a distant 4th from 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So why are we going to pay $1.30 for every cable box in Texas for the ACC network when a fraction of Texas is watching the ACC network for SMU? So if you tell ESPN, we're going to cut your revenue in Texas by 70%, we're going to cut your revenue in California by 80%, now ESPN doesn't have the funds to pay these ridiculous, obtuse fees to the ACC and the ACC network. That's going to increase the likelihood that the ESPN wipes their hands of the ACC network because it's no longer profitable. So that is a domino that's going to help affect all of this other litigation. So yes, absolutely. Every one of these filings, even though it means the litigation is prolonged for another 6 months to a year, has a relevant component when it comes to negotiating a resolution, and each one of these seem to be going against the ACC.
Yeah, and like the DirecTV one, that's the next one I was going to bring up. Like, there has to be something in the contract between the ESPN and ACC that they're supposed to be on all these damn DirecTV channels. Like, what? I don't know, because I grew up kind of rural, I mean, Pensacola and surrounding areas. We're not exactly out in the boonies, but you had to have a satellite. I mean, that's just rural areas. It's just you have to have a satellite. Like, everybody had DirecTV back in the day. Our generation has cut cables and things of that nature, but I have to imagine DirecTV, maybe I should just look it up. What percentage of cable boxes is that? Like, that has to be gigantic.
Yeah.
And this is where ESPN is getting stuck in a bind, because I fully believe that ESPN has been working the last 10 years on their direct to consumer cable product, just like Peacock TV, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, Disney Plus. The problem is live sports is so much more complex than all of those other networks. So they were thinking by 2030, by 2035, we will have this direct to consumer plug-in for ESPN. Well, all of these negotiations are affecting their timeline, and they're going to need to figure out how to get this done by 2026 or 2027. Well, let's reduce the complexity by having fewer channels. ACC network is not being as successful as they planned. Profitable, yes, they are spending $470 million and they're making $472 million. I promise you, a 5% profitability rating is not what ESPN is investing their money into. And that was with the entire state of California and Texas paying their carriage fees. So you reduce those two states, and now ESPN is looking at the ACC network as a non-profitable entity. They're going to get to February 1st and say, we're out.
Well, I've got two scenarios that I'm thinking about here. Obviously, Florida State's threatening to leave regardless. So here's my kind of two scenarios. First of all, are they just playing to get the big cash payday from FSU and Clemson before they blow up as a conference, and that's their golden parachute out? That's their Easter egg as they see all these things going? Or are they going to like risk losing? Because if ESPN signs that contract, you just mentioned the numbers, how tight it is. And we've talked about this a lot on Twitter because it's something that people want to stick their hand in hitting the head in the sand and pretend it ignores. They say, oh, well, yeah, they're 40%, but whatever, 60% still good. No. Florida State and Clemson, yeah, they account for 40% of the eyeballs, the views or whatever. But if you take them out, no, they really account for 80, 90%. Because Syracuse gets their numbers counted in. All these other teams, these teams that came in, Stanford, Cal, they're getting 250, 300,000 viewers in games last year. You play Florida State once, that adds a 300, 400,000 average to your yearly total. And that's for 12 games, 500,000 for conference games to your average. And then they'll come out and say, we average 750,000.
Did you see the Big 12 numbers today that exclude Colorado? They have yet to have a game over 1 million viewers.
Wow.
That is what the ACC is risking by losing Clemson and Florida State. And that's what ACC is looking at.
But they're closer to the Power 4 or the Power 2 than the ACC is right now. Right. People really believe that.
So you remove Florida State and Clemson, and they will struggle to have 1 million viewers on their ACC scheduled games.
They need Utah. That's
why would even at a 4.5% escalation rate, why would ESPN continue to pay the premium that they're paying for the ACC network and for the ACC schools when they're going to average less than 1 million viewers for the ACC conference.
Don't let me take it all. Do you have any questions, Deshawn?
Well, I would ask a non-legal question here, Doug.
Let's go.
Because the last time we talked with you was prior to the Georgia Tech game, I believe. So, looking at these last 2 weeks, and we're coming off a bye week, preparing for Memphis. What is your opinion of where the team is? You know, we've all been vocal, and we've all stated what we've seen, and everyone has had their opinions, been upset. We're all disappointed, but what would you do in this situation? Where would you know, some of the things you like to see change, or just, you know, keep your don't you have to go off the deep end like I'll do that, but just, you know, just that narrative. Where do you stand with what you're seeing, and how would you go about changing it?
I really appreciate that, Deshawn. As much as I talk about law, I still am a Florida State fan. And one thing that's been really neat about this platform that you all have given me is that some people are talking to me now. I'm not just an FSU fan. Apparently, I've graduated to the influencer status, and that means that I've got some people that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
There is a lack of leadership among the current roster. They failed to account for the departures to the NFL last season, and they didn't have any lieutenants last year that were ready to step up to be generals this year. So you have a whole bunch of team members that are supremely talented, that are qualified to be Power 4 starters, but they lack leadership. Nobody is going around in practice talking people up. Nobody is going around on game day hyping up, we got to do this, we got to do that. Everybody is sitting on their hands, and we've got some high quality freshmen. We had a good recruiting class that came in, but they're freshmen, and the freshmen aren't going to come in and start barking. We don't have a Jalen Ramsey. We don't have a Jordan Travis this year. And as a result, we have a lackluster program that is lacking the motivation that we have had in previous years. Jared Verse was a highly paid NIL employee of Florida State. Obviously, NIL is not the problem. He was getting ready for his NFL payday. He and Fisk were feeding off each other on a daily basis, barking and yelling, pushing each other to excellence. Nobody on the current roster is stepping into that role. DJ has all the talent in the world. He led an 8-4 team last year. All we wanted him to do was lead an 8-4 team this year, maybe even turn it into a 10-2 team this year. But he is not stepping up. We have Pat Payton and Marvin Jones Jr., who probably wanted to leave early for the NFL, but their draft grade right now is in the toilet. Now, we had 2 mobile running quarterbacks, not a drop back passer, but we need to see a markedly improved team tomorrow against Memphis, or this season is literally going to go off the rails. So I don't know how to fix it. Look, let me tell you this. You go down the quarterback roster. We have DJU is not performing. We have Brock Glenn, who really hasn't shown in practice that he's much better. We have Luke Kromenhoek, who's a true freshman. Jameis Winston didn't start as a true freshman. Don't ruin Luke Kromenhoek by having him start. So where does that leave us? Jackson.
Yeah.
Jackson's been running with the scout team, but dang if he didn't look good on film.
Yeah.
If I was Mike Norvell, if I was in charge, and let me tell you, I have never played a down of football in my life. I am not qualified to make this conclusion. But if I'm looking at practice and I am looking out there, I'm putting Jackson in as my second string quarterback. Let him run around. Hell, have Cam Davis line up. Have Cam Davis line up at quarterback. He played quarterback last year.
Yeah.
I don't think Brock Glenn is the answer, but we'll probably see him tomorrow. I don't think you can risk Luke Kromenhoek. Put Jackson in.
Yeah. When you're sitting there and it's just BS warm-ups and stuff, but when you're looking at the ball coming out of Luke's hand and DJ's and even Brock's, and then you look at the balls that Trevor's throwing, I mean, they're pretty bald. We haven't got
Yeah.
to see it in action, but he's got the athletic ability.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think if you can afford the reps in practice, I think is the issue. If you can afford the reps to put in a package for him, that would be a lot of fun. And I'm right there with you on Brock Glenn. Like, even if you put in Brock Glenn, Trevor,
Mhm.
whoever for a quarter, for a series,
Yeah.
it's not like you can't put DJU right back in. Maybe
Yeah.
it lights a fire under his ass and he goes out there into the little local because we
Yeah.
don't have those damn guys, And
With
Mhm.
another one, Lawrence Toafili in the Wildcat was
yeah,
unstoppable last year, and we've yet to
yeah.
see that shit once. I
Yeah.
mean,
I think we'll
that
see
was
it
the entire
tomorrow.
ACC title.
But with that, I got to sign off. We're heading to
Okay.
dinner at Shula's. So I'll report back what I learned about the 1851 Micanopy and
Okay.
all of the opportunities you have for making this program stronger and better for next year. But yeah, let's bring on Alabama 2025. What can we do to get ready for Alabama 2025? I'm all in.
Come in as the
Okay.
underdog. I can see it now.
Uh,
We're gonna bust their ass.
we appreciate you,
All right.
Doug. Thank you,
Y'all
man.
take care. Have a
You
good
I'm gonna
one.
too.
put that YouTube because YouTube channel here. He's had a YouTube channel since like 2009. So I'm gonna get that
Yeah,
link
man.
going for you guys, and I'm gonna pressure him to start doing some shows over there. I'll come do a show.
Sounds
Just
good.
let me know.
All right. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Take care, man.
One of the best Knowles in the game. Doug
Yeah.
is that guy, man. I'll tell you what. That was great. But yeah, so
Mhm.
nice legal update. I love it. I love where it's going. Outside of everything on the field, the law stuff, we still look to be in good shape. I just don't see no way in hell that ESPN extends by. It's just such a risk. Why would you? I mean, you're adding a 9 year. Like, even if you don't think Florida State is getting out this year or next year, 9 years, you don't think they're going to be out by 2036 or whatever it is? Nah, come on, man, don't be that stupid.
Yeah.
Unless they're also the ACC's like planning to merge with the Big 12 or something. It's going to take something crazy like that. I've also heard. I was going to ask him this, but I ran out of time. But I've also heard like California or something is like Stanford and Cal. Like
Yes.
they're trying to sue to get them out of the ACC where they have to go be in the Pac-12 again when they get their things established. I guess something like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how true it is, but I know there was mentioning, with the certain schools from the Mountain West are going to
Mhm.
join the Pac-12. And in that list, they did show Cal and Stanford on it as, I would understand, you're playing majority of the teams on the East Coast. You're saving yourself a hell of a lot of money here in this situation. So that's funny and it's odd. But and on the other hand, here we go. This is two other universities that now may side with certain decisions that are made when it comes to meeting in Charlotte. As far as getting out, they may vote in our favor in certain aspects of things that may change down the road. But it's
You
something to
never know.
keep an eye on. Yeah, you never know. It's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And guys, look, we're following FSU's perspective, where FSU is.
Yeah.
It's like, people talked all their shit, and then this motion just came out exactly what we have been telling you for months and months before the things came out. The belief is that in those documents, this thing pertains to ESPN and ESPN only. The grant rights doesn't go and do all this other stuff. It's for ACC home games played on ESPN. So, regardless of what happens, um, you know, as long as FSU isn't playing a home game in the ACC on ESPN, they don't know shit. So that's, who knows if they win. Again, we think it's going to get decided, but if they can get a few wins, if they can put enough pressure, whatever the case may be, that's it. But pretty much nobody knows shit, guys. You've got conferences collapsing and rising out of the ashes and everything else. You heard Doug talk about the numbers that the Big 12 has had this year. That's what I've been saying all summer when everybody's getting all pissy and cocky and going back and forth with me about the Big 12. It's like, y'all haven't had a year without Texas and Oklahoma. You're acting like, look at how good we are without them, but there hadn't been a football game played. It was just an
Yeah.
off season. Like, who's going to watch? They underestimate that. The same thing with Florida State and Clemson. When you look at the averages for the numbers,
Yeah.
all these Big 12 teams boasting about their TV numbers, but it's all inflated with Oklahoma and Texas on the schedule.
Yeah.
And they played a round robin in the Big 12. That means they got to play Texas and Oklahoma every single year, every team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
That's why the top 8 was the Atlantic every single year. It was just the
Hmm.
teams that played FSU and Clemson every year. And the one or two teams out of Coastal, that's the top ones. But we won't talk about this all night. Before we get into the game and predictions, the call-in line is open if anybody wants to call with a question or a minute take. That's the new limit outside of Tiny Hat and guys like that. They get a reprieve. Or if you're just absolutely on fire, I'll let you go longer. But just a minute, okay? If it's a take, we'll cut it off at a minute and we'll go for there. But yeah, the line's open. How are we feeling about what was I just about to ask you, dude? I'm all over the place. Before the predictions, I don't know. I've just totally lost my way. How are you feeling about the game, bro?
If I'm just gonna be honest, I love my Noles. I'm a Nole through and through, but I can't say I'm necessarily feeling overly, any overconfidence. I believe if we do win the game, I can look at it as a 3 to 6 point win. With what based off of what we've seen, I put it that way. I'm not being negative. I'm not gonna be negative. It's just when we break down the football, it's just some things on offense that Memphis can do that are better than the two teams we just lost to. And that worries me. But I will say this, if the trenches somehow do a 180 on both sides of the ball and step up, I think that's where we can win the game, and we could win it by a little more than 7 points than the odds are right now. I do like some of the parts that we do have, like we all do, but it just, if I don't see that effort tomorrow, then we already know what's getting ready to happen. So right now, I'm not overly confident, if I'm just going to answer the question.
No, that's totally fair. That's the main thing you want to see. You want to see them knocking the line of scrimmages, regardless of what you want to say about recruiting, Memphis, Florida State, on paper, on the field, all those things. If we're not pushing Memphis back on defense, at least a yard, and if we're not stalemating or moving forward on offense, it's gonna be a long day. It'll be a long day, just like it has been. But specifically on defense, you got to stop the run. Here's where, and it's not like I'm over the moon. I'm not predicting us to win. I'm not taking the points, nothing like that. Well, I may predict us to win. I'm just saying I'm not taking the 6.5 or whatever it is. So their passing game is what's kind of like that sticks out. They got a badass quarterback. He threw for 3,800 yards.
Yes.
We just haven't seen that yet. We haven't been torched. Our secondary has played pretty good, been in good leverage. They've made teams run it, and they have just kept running it and running it and running it. Much more to what BCU and Georgia Tech does in Memphis.
Yes.
That's kind of what we talked to. I believe his name's Frank Bonner. If I got that wrong, the second, I'm sorry. But yeah, we had Frank Bonner on from the Daily Memphian, and I was like, man, like, do you see them if they start running the ball and we can't stop it, just sticking with the run for the whole game? And you could see it. He wanted to say, yeah, they will, but he's like, no, we got. And he named all the different weapons, and of course, Hennigan coming back. Yeah, they're going to throw it some. So there's going to be opportunities there. We're going to see what happens. But if we can't stop the run and Memphis just does what Georgia Tech and Boston College did to us, tough. It'll be tough. Again, I believe it's about a 6.5 point spread there. I'm not ready to make a pick. I'll make a pick before we close the show.
Yeah,
I'm still not ready. Well, I think it's funny when you look at recruiting and everything going on right now. Well, that's what I was going to talk about for a minute. It's like we're in a spot right now where I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys, like, there's no winning. The recruiting is just going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better between now and National Signing Day. There's not going to be anything the staff could possibly do outside of grabbing like some random 2 or 3 5-stars in the next couple of weeks that's going to satiate anybody. I see it on the timeline, and I get it. Tempted to make some of the same jokes, but it's like, whatever. Targos out for the family commit. All these people, they're coming through to commit to not just unofficial stopping by, official visits. And it's like, oh, they're just there to get a little bag and do it's nothing. And hey, that might be true, and that is kind of how it looks or whatever. But you got to fucking start somewhere. Like you got to get him on campus. Maybe he gets on campus and falls in love with some chick or something. Whatever the case may be, like that's where it starts. I think everybody in the world knows that there's going to be staff changes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So you have to sell that, the program or whatever. You got to keep recruiting. So it's like you'll never win. Like it's going to be hell talked, but at the same time, It's not the end of the world. We still got the best class that Norvell assigned since he's been here last year, and hopefully we see some major changes on the staff. And I don't want to just keep hammering that and getting back into who we think needs to go and this thing that we talked about that plenty. But yeah, again, the phone line is up there if you want to do any call-ins, you got any questions or takes. Now's the time for that. We're gonna have a pretty, pretty short show today. Not too much. Like, it's not like I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth here, and like, not like I'm scared to talk the team up now that we lost a couple games. It's just like your mom always says, there's nothing good to say nothing at all. And that's about where it is. Like, I don't want to keep shitting on the team. Like, I'm a Florida State fan. I came into this episode ready to be like, I'm fired up to get this win. And I will do my best here in the next couple minutes to talk about how it happened. But it's all with the caveat of what we've seen on tape. It hasn't been even close to what Florida State is, anywhere close to the standard, even of a Boston College or a Georgia Tech, obviously, because they kicked our ass.
Well, I got a question for you, George. A friend of the show, Clay Fink, 247. He wrote an article, and he basically saw, based off of what he's seen, that he doesn't see FSU as more than a 3-win team. And then, this was something that was put, and he stood on what he said, which, I mean, I applaud him for it. It's an honest assessment and opinion from someone who apparently has been at practices,
Yep.
What is your take? I mean, I asked you that, man. Just ask
No,
question.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that article. But here's the thing.
Have it.
What we have seen, that might be generous.
Yeah.
Who is it? I mean, I can pull up this. Let me pull up the schedule. Like Miami, you couldn't play like that against Miami. That's a loss. Clemson, that's a loss.
Loss. Notre Dame,
loss. Maybe not. Maybe Notre Dame's just as bad as us. We don't know. Play a little bit.
They're better in the trenches still. That's why I was saying.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let me get this. I'm like moving at the speed of smell here.
North Carolina, I know, is on the schedule.
They have messed Google up, man. Google's a nightmare compared to how it used to be. So we got Memphis and Cal. We just watched Cal beat Auburn. Memphis and Cal, I'll call those coin flips from what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
SMU, coin flip. Clemson, that's a loss.
Yeah.
Duke, coin flip.
Coin flip.
Miami, that's a loss. UNC, that's a loss. Notre Dame, that's a loss. You got to get Charleston Southern.
Yeah.
Florida, that's another coin flip.
Exactly.
We got a better quarterback.
What we're looking at, I mean, what you brought up when you
let me be clear real quick. Let me be clear real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
That's not prediction. That's not my prediction. That's not what I'm saying to think the team is or will be. But the premise of the article and the way Deshawn said it to me, just going on what we have seen on tape, seen in practice, heard so far, that performance, that's a 3-win team.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I think we get to 5 or 6 wins, even 7. I think they get shit together, but not with what we've seen. Like somebody has to step up. Something has to change. And I'm all ears what your thoughts are on what the key changes or some of the keys might be Saturday night to get it going. Obviously, attitude in the trenches is huge.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Attitude overall. The team's focus and attitude. You're not just going to magically find leaders. If they're not there, someone has to. If you have a freshman that's a leader, no one's going to follow that freshman unless he's a dog on the field. But we can't see that because they're not on the field. But I will speak to the situation of what Doug touched on, a spark. There's something that you have to have. You have to have some kind of spark. If it's not Brock, if it's not at the quarter, if it's not Brock, then you need something to spark, because that key position, he's back, and he's a lot more energetic and a leadership type of guy. I've noticed that just in the little things and interviews and things. He has that mentality, but it's also that question: has he been on the team? Enough plays, for them to follow? Can he get seniors to follow him? On that side of the ball, can he motivate? It's going to be tough. And then you're not getting the energy you need from the person that's supposedly throwing the ball. And either if it's DJ, Brock, Luke, or even Trevor, which I'll speak to our viewers about Trevor. I think Trevor's very underrated. There's been a lot of criticism or things I've seen on the timeline about negatives and positive about him. My only negative is I wouldn't want to force him out there because I wouldn't think he's ready. But as far as talent wise, for our viewers, he's listed as a walk on only and walk on only. This guy was an Elite 11 quarterback, a genuine 4-star who had Division One P2 offers. He had some situations similar to what a Randy Moss or Allen Iverson had in the past that cost him a lot of things, and he just trying to fix it and get it together. And he's a legitimate quarterback. He has
He
skill
won a
sets.
day at the Elite 11. That isn't like
Yes,
he wasn't there.
he won
won
no,
a
no, no,
fucking
no.
day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was getting ready to get into that. He won some events there. It wasn't like he just showed up with his shorts and the football. No, this is a legitimate P5. It just all of the assessment of him even coming out of high school is that okay, he'd be a guy that can be a Power 5 starter, but it'll take some time in development. That's it. But when you watch his game, he's mobile. He has a really, really good arm, really good touch on the ball, and can attack the middle of the field. It's something a lot of people like to see in the floor, and amongst our fan base. But getting back to the core of what we're talking about, what you want to see for this game in particular, it's just a spark. You need a big play needs to be made, something to motivate. Also, that war chant that we spoke on earlier needs to play on defense. I don't understand, whoever voted it or whatever not to do it. I understand, like you said, it's a new age with players today, but that's a tradition that's like no different than Bevo, Uga, with Osceola and Renegade. That's a part of our tradition. You don't eliminate tradition like that when it's a part of the game they experience, because it sours young and old fans alike.
We weren't 13-0. That shit would have never happened. They snuck
Exactly.
that right up under our noses, boy. We weren't in
Exactly.
high pressure third downs like that all the time.
Exactly. And I mean, no, you're right, man. But just being honest, since we're just shooting shit here and just really without complaining, but airing grievances and just being honest, all of us who grew up watching Florida State football, that's a part of our childhood into young adult and adulthood, just period. That's a part of what, it's a part of who we are as Florida State fans, as Noles. You don't eliminate those things. That's just like saying, well, we're not going to run Renegade out there anymore. Osceola's not going to have the spirit. What the fuck are you talking about? You still got people who are older than we are that's still looking for the spirit. Where the hell is that? If we're really just touching to the tradition, because that's one thing. I'm about the logo. Players come and go. You respect those players and the things they did, but the logo is what I've always loved. I fell in love with Florida State and then the players. That's me. Now, getting into this game, George, I just want to see some energy. I mean, I'm not going to pick wins and losses, but if I see fight in the dog, then there's hope. But if I see lackadaisical and just going through the motion, then we pretty much know what it is. And I'm just going to be cut straight to the cut the bullshit. We know what it is. And at that point, I think that it's a crossroads for Coach Norvell in this point. I got to make changes this offseason. What changes can I make right now to get us through this season? And you, in my opinion, you do have to, we've already touched on it, youth movement in certain areas. You start getting your young quarterbacks ready. You start playing some of your younger wide receivers over those senior wide receivers who are not really producing or haven't produced since they've been there. You get your tight end. You understand what I'm saying? You start trying to develop your young guys. That's what I would do. And you just look forward to you look for the future. And then you start trying to get your recruiting class, hold what you got together, get the pieces you need, really evaluate. And then when we get to the offseason, it's an overall evaluation from above the head coach all the way down to your analyst. You need to evaluate. And that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, if you can't win with the seniors,
yeah.
If they're not going to give effort in the different things, you've got to get them the fuck out of there because you're just wasting. I mean, get experience for the guys that are going to be here next year.
Yeah.
Mike Hawley says, "Oh my God, George, what an entrance!" At least somebody laughed about it. I saw Drip Kings. I'll throw this comment up there. He says, "Never mind, never mind, never mind. Wrong one, dude. You had a good comment before that." Anyways, he said, "What if we go on a run and we beat UF, UM, Notre Dame, Clemson, all there in the last kind of month and a half of the season? That would be ideal. That would be unreal." And you could have a shot to get some momentum going, but not predicting that. I don't think that happens. but we can still get to where we can win a couple of those. I will go ahead and make a prediction here as we're 50 minutes in, maybe another 10, 20 minutes. We'll hang out. We'll see. I'm going to say Florida State squeaks out the win. 31-27, and they hit the over. I'm going to be wrong. They're going to hit the under.
I could see that, George. Like I said,
I
didn't want to throw out a score, but I will. And I said if we win, it'd be like a 28-24, something like that. 31-28, like you said. It's a three, anywhere from a 3 to a 6 point victory. And if we lose, that means we didn't show up, and it could get ugly.
Not so much since we've done this podcast, because Florida State was in a really good space with the climb and everything. We bragged about it. But something that I've talked about online for years and years is like so totally underrated, especially in the Taggart years and the early Mike Norvell years. Like, and it's the same thing we've got going on this year. Like, you look at the players on the paper, and it doesn't make any sense how they're going out and getting whipped by teams that have, a handful of 4-stars in the last decade. Like, it just doesn't make sense. The mental side of it is so huge. Just being successful, like if you could go play half a season, if Florida State could start the season off with Division III and Division II games for the first 6 games, who knows? Like they might have had a damn good team by week 7. Like, you got to make that happen. Like, you got to pull it from one year to the next, keep it going, capture that in camp. And look, losing the 13 guys, to NFL aspirations and everything, they miscalculated. They lost it. We're back at square one with all that stuff. Not so much just the, going to class and doing the right thing and that type of nature, but that dog going to that next level. What I was thinking, and I wanted to say, but I didn't want to interrupt you when y'all were talking about it earlier, is like everybody's just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a bunch of guys, like, not they're doing wrong. They're doing all the drills. They're doing this at practice, but they're just going through the motions. It's not, man, when you're working on anything that's like elite or good, whether it's a podcast or in a kitchen as a short order cook, you're going to have blow ups. You're going to get into fights with your brothers and sisters. You're not going to agree on shit.
Yeah.
Emotions are going to get high. We haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody cussing anybody out on the sidelines. I ain't seen none of that. It's just kind of like, oh, well, damn, that was supposed to work. Why didn't it work?
Yeah.
Let's line up for another one.
And the thing that's strange about it, George, is you got a lot of players on this team with mouths to feed, but ain't playing like they got mouths to feed. And I'll speak to this, and I'll end on this for myself. And I'll just say it. I don't think it'll be controversial, but it's something that I said about what makes up a team. You got to have a couple of guys from the hood on the team. A couple of tough guys with everybody can't be a choir boy. If you're looking for a bunch of choir boys, the results are going to show up on the field. You're not going to win a lot. You need some farm boys. Some of them boys that bale hay. Some of them boys from the rural area. I need my country. You need a mix. It's always a mix. And then you need those guys, some of those choir boys, to balance it all out. I think we don't have enough of those guys from the hood, and we don't have enough farm boys on this team. We don't.
Very true. Yep. It's like there's just no character. There's nothing there to whip up excitement. Just everybody's just a choir boy, But when you look at the coaching staff, when you look at Randy, and I don't want to get too into it. I got my guy Tiny Hat on the line as we get ready to end the show here. Perfect timing. He's the one guy that gets to go longer than 60 seconds on the phone call. So go ahead, man.
What's up, Tiny?
Yes, the Tiny Hat CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. Shout out to my boy George over there. Listen, pour you a nice chilled glass of Hennessy, sit back and just watch the game. George, shout out to you for making that, apple flavored moonshine you got going this week. I see you get that, baby. But listen, here's what I'm going to tell you. You talk about going back and forth. That's what I heard you say. You know what? I'm going back and forth too. I'm putting a belt in my hand and I'm going back and forth across a bunch of asses out here. Florida State don't get out here and dominate this game. I'll tell you that much. Florida State needs to get out here, put their big boy pants on, stop whining, get off that feather, that goose down blanket that you laying on with all your NIL money. Go lay your ass on some hay outside. You gonna live like you in Amistad. Give us free. That's what I want to hear from my players after they have been stuck living outside in a tent that ain't made from nothing more than a whole bunch of sheet metal that we hang over our windows during hurricane season. That's all they need to be doing right now. Get outside, get some mud in your hands, get some dirt on your body, and get out there and run somebody the hell over. I want me some country corn-fed motherfuckers out there too. I want somebody who is out there that's been doing nothing but picking up logs from somebody else's front yard because his grandfather used to pick up logs, his daddy picked up logs, and now he picking up logs. His hands got to be fat, they got to be callous, and they got to be used to go back and forth and put belt to ass on anybody else that we running down on. Okay, if Florida State don't win this game this week, 2 touchdown minimum. I gave them the first half of last week. I'm not doing this again. Florida State needs to come out here and win this game, 2 touchdown minimum. If we ain't doing that, then I'm coming up there and I'm gonna show them how my back and forth motion works when I'm swinging this belt off my hip right at Mike Norvell and right at every single one of these other country ass coaches that we got that's not doing what they supposed to do. Florida State all day, every day, baby. Tiny Hat Gang, we out.
All right, love it, love it.
I'll make a claim. I'll go ahead. If we win by 2 touchdowns, for better or worse, I will get my ass on this channel and I will lie for at least one show.
Yeah,
I will lie my ass off.
I'll be there with you.
There's things I need to see. It's not so much about the score. Obviously, if they blow them out, then yeah, we out talented. We beat Memphis, but there's just things you need to see. Like we've talked about all show. The opponent really doesn't matter. It's not a cliche. The opponent does not fucking matter. Like it doesn't matter if there was air. They were throwing against air these passes. Like they just have to get the yips. You know, when I was talking to Chris or somebody the other day, they called it the yips. You know, yeah, just like maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but we've seen all these guys perform. I've seen not so much Daryl Jackson. I've seen Joshua Farmer wreck offensive linemen. I've seen Pat Payton wreck offensive linemen or completely fool them or read the quarterback and have 11 batted down. Like all the different things. I've seen it. Now, he also had a shit ton of missed tackles last year, and that's shown up. But he had linebackers and defensive backs behind him that would clean up for that. Or he would do enough. Like, even when he does miss these tackles or loses the edge, like, he's doing enough to slow the guy down. Like, where's the next guy to come tackle him? Like, but anyways, not trying to go on a tangent again. It's so hard not to. Our Knowles are going to come out and kick ass tomorrow, guys. What did I pick? I can't even remember what I picked. 31-27, I think.
Yeah, you said 31-27.
Deshawn didn't pick a win. I think he said if we win,
it'll be around that. Yeah, it'll be around that range.
Oh man, that shit's fun. Yeah, it is what it is. The chat, everybody, our guys are like tearing peanut. Blah blah blah. He's just spewing nonsense. It is what it is. We appreciate the engagement, bro. We really do. We appreciate Tiny Hat CEO for coming through as he always does. We appreciate Jen. She's a moderator. She's in there in the chat, taking care of business, hanging out with us. Can't wait for her to get totally healthy and be back with us. Go ahead and let the people know where they can get to your YouTube channel and stuff.
All right, that's Pro Football Talk, Double D's Let's Talk Ball podcast. Also, Double D's Let's Talk College, where we'll touch on college. Double D's Gaming, and also D's Corner, DSCORNER, D's Corner.
Boom! You heard it here first. Knowles are winning tomorrow, noon Eastern. Be there. If you're in town, there's all kind of great stuff. Make sure you get up with the tailgate. James and them, I'm sure I'm doing a tailgate. They've got all kind of stuff going on. We haven't really been. It's been kind of crazy. We were supposed to be there this week. Of course, things got kind of messed up on our end. But hopefully this team can get it going. We can get our shit together and come see you guys at one of these home games here soon. But as always, we love you right here from the Renegade Rundown. We will see you guys on Sunday at 7 Eastern for sure. And who knows, maybe I'll jump on here and do a watch along or something just for fun if we start winning or something. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, we'll check you out next time. As always, it's George, it's Deshawn, it's the Renegade Rundown.
Oh no.
Goodness, I'm just